Today we're looking back at some of your favourite relationship drama stories from this year. Have you ever considered opening up your relationship? If so, would you be worried about your partner falling for someone new? This is exactly what OP is facing in today's first story. We, 34 female and 35 male, opened our relationship, and now I think my husband prefers our girlfriend. Posted by a throwaway account. We've been together for 14 years. We have a 7 and 3-year-old together. 3 years ago, my husband got, well, I don't want to say bored, but I'm not sure what else to call it. So after a while, mostly begging on his part, I accepted to introduce a third into our marriage. We can call her Harper, 25 female. My husband knew Harper before everything. She's his sister's friend. Another awkward story. And it's been 3 years. I love Harper. She's like crazy sweet, and the children love her. We do girls trips, split everything 50-50, and go shopping. But my husband most definitely prefers Harper. He pushes her to do exercise, to diet, to dress pretty. But she's also the first one he'll text if he gets good or bad news. She's the first one he'll greet when he gets home. They go on dates once a week. My husband said it's because Harper insisted and I didn't. I confronted my husband and he said he just feels there's more intimacy, like she's his best friend. I pointed out that I'm the mother of his children. He used to say I was his best friend. He said he loves us both, but feels this warmth when he thinks of Harper. Harper doesn't leave me out of anything. She's always going out of her way to include me, to spoil the children, and make sure everything is equal. I don't know what to do because I love Harper. I just want my husband to need me like he used to. I want to be my husband's favourite. All advice is welcome. Well, this sounds toxic AF. I can't imagine why 2 girls would even want this loser. In 12 hours, I'll get the answer. Divorce or open marriage. Posted by Big Divorce 9546. I gave him an ultimatum, either an open marriage or a divorce. I caught my husband of 12 years cheating on me. I do know the girl because she's a part-time cashier at the local grocery store. He's been spending a lot of money on her. I got the proof and confronted him. He did what most cheaters do, deny and gaslight. When he couldn't make up more lies, he finally caved and started his big man tears of, "Don't leave me, baby. I swear I'll change." I gave him options. Either we open our marriage and keep our home, keep our children, and they'll grow up in a house and not shift every weekend. You can keep your side chicks as long as you do not bring them into our home. We will have a set of rules and boundaries. I laid out all the boundaries and conditions. 1. He cannot spend money from our joint account. He can spend money from his personal expenses. However, in the case of an emergency, he'll put his family above his side chicks. 2. Never bring them home or into our space where we have our kids. 3. No family members or friends. 4. Always use protection and get regular STD checkups. 5. We will tell each other about the dates, when we're going, who we're going with, but we don't have to share pictures of our partners. 6. If he gets a woman pregnant, it's the end, and if I get pregnant by another man, I'll either get an abortion or put the kid up for adoption. Or if the father agrees, he can keep the baby and I'll sign away my rights. And yes, he's more than welcome to divorce me. I won't push him for child support for another man's child. Option 2. We'll get a divorce. We'll split everything evenly. The house is in my name, so I'll keep the house. We will only contact each other through a parenting app. No bad-mouthing to our kids. If our kids want to know the truth later in life, we will tell them. We will have a healthy co-parenting relationship. He can have as many girlfriends as he wants, but shouldn't force our children to accept them. It's for our kids to decide. I gave him 48 hours. Now there's 12 hours left. We will see what he decides. If he cannot, then I'll make the decision for both of us. My decision will be divorce. Wow, that all sounds really reasonable. I'm not sure I'd be so calm and rational if I just found out the guy I'd been with for 12 years and had 2 kids with was cheating on me. Major props to OP. Relevant comments. This just sounds like revenge. Wow, that's crazy. My first thought was, she's not out for revenge at all. She's letting him have his cake and eat it too, all for the sake of the kids. In what way is this revenge? Opie responds and says, because I'm an idiot, this is not the first time he's cheated. I forgave him. I found sexting and he blamed it on his sex addiction, and I forgave him because we had children. Even now, he blamed it on me for not giving him enough sex. I mean, he's a bum. He doesn't do his part of chores and always complains. So I gave him exactly what he wants. He wants to have sex with multiple women, and I'm giving him that, under my conditions. So they cannot blame me that I never did anything on the sex part. Knowing him, I know he won't decide, and I'll have to make the decision for both of us, like I always do. Another commenter says, just divorce, don't do this open marriage option because he won't stick to it. Opie responds and says, you really think he'll agree to the open marriage? I'm already checked out. I'm just giving him a choice so later he doesn't say I didn't try to make it work or deprived him of sex. He was literally crying and hyperventilating when I brought up the divorce first. He wanted me to give him another chance. I gave him one, under my conditions. He said he'll do anything I ask for. Someone else says, but it's a cheater's dream scenario. Opie responds, yes, but on the other hand, he'll also have to face the fact that his wife is sleeping with other people. Do you think if he agrees to an open marriage, I will stay home and wait for him? No, I will look into fun outside my marriage. If it was really beneficial for him, he would have said yes when I brought it up. He is still texting me, wanting to talk and saying this is not the way. And my favourite line of all, we'll go to church, as if that's gonna help. What's his issue? He wants to F around and keep the family, and now he gets to. Why can't she F around if he is? He's not gonna suddenly stop cheating. They're more just co-parenting under the same roof at this point. Update. I choose divorce. Well, I gave the verdict before the 12 hours was up because I knew he couldn't choose either option and would just gaslight me. I gave him 48 hours and he couldn't decide. He still wanted to talk and see if we could work things out. I told him to pack his stuff and get out. He begged and pleaded, but I stood firm. He said several couples make it work and why not? But I'm not a doormat who will waste several years of her life building a foundation that was already broken. I've contacted my lawyer and I'll serve him within the week. I've already had the divorce papers ready, but I didn't serve him because I gave him the option of what it was going to be. Soon, our family will know. And I won't hear out anyone who says that I should give him a chance. I did, and he failed. I don't believe that cheating makes a relationship stronger, like that one guy in the comments told me. I cannot even look at him in the same way. I'm done being weak and making excuses for him. That's it. I'm sitting in my empty house. My kids are with my mother. I don't know where he is or what he's doing. I guess I knew this would have been the ultimate fate of my marriage even if we chose to open up the relationship. But I guess I didn't want my kids to come from a broken home. But then again, my kids would have lost it anyway. My mother forgave my dad and he never cheated again, but I knew, in the back of her mind, she still had suspicion that my dad was cheating. She never fully trusted him again. No matter how much she said they were okay, and that after the incident their love was stronger, no matter how much she was praised for being a strong woman, for giving her husband a second chance, I knew she didn't fully trust my father. He didn't know, but people around them knew. And she sighed a sigh of relief when he died. It just meant she didn't have to pretend anymore. Sorry, I'm just rambling. I'm a mess right now. I'm just coping by posting on Reddit and talking to internet strangers. The point is, I don't want to live like my mother, worrying where he is, if he's really going to work or not, being a cell guard in my own marriage. I won't lie, when I told him I'd get a divorce, I felt lighter. As if a weight had been lifted. Thanks, people. Opie's response to someone who blamed her for her husband cheating. There's so many things wrong with your comment. It will take a minute. First of all, the fact that you put sex and food on the same line is wrong. Starving someone is literally a crime. You're murdering that person. How is not having sex murdering that person? In which state is that a crime? Secondly, I did have sex with him. It was not an issue. I saw how he threw tantrums like a kid when I rejected him. The first time he cheated, I forgave him and was more active in sex. But the amount of orgasmless sex, or as I call it, sandpaper sex, that I had to endure was mind-boggling. Should I have cheated? So every woman who hasn't been satisfied by their husband should cheat? I mean, you did say that people who don't get food at home will look outside. But if that happened, you wouldn't blame the man for ruining the marriage by not satisfying their wives. You'd blame the woman for being selfish. Also, guys who always complain about their wives not having sex with them, have you ever asked the wives why? Are they ill? Are their emotional needs being met? I was a mum who worked and came home and did every chore, cooked, cleaned, helped with the kids. He did his part, but I was doing most of it. Do you guys ever stop and think that maybe she's exhausted and that's why she's not having sex? Do you guys even care about a woman's pleasure? Most women have a normal libido. If you guys kill it by not romancing them or fulfilling their emotional needs, they will resent you. They will not see sex as something pleasurable, but rather a chore. That's why women feel like they're a maid. These guys want sex on demand. They don't care that you have to ease a woman into it. These guys don't want wives, they just want a live-in sex worker. These are the men who leave their wives when they're terminally ill because they're not having sex or meeting their demands. That's how I was treated, and I took it as an act of love. Trust me, it wasn't my libido that ended my marriage. It was his lack of patience, effort, and the ability to control his dick. Update: he's living with his parents and has been calling non-stop. His last message told me he broke up with his affair partner, but honestly, what's even the point now? So, he still hadn't broken up with her while he was begging for forgiveness, okay? His mother called and said she was sorry and asked if there was a way I could forgive him and try and work things out. I told her absolutely not. I'd already given him a chance and he blew it. She was upset but didn't push the matter. The kids are staying with my mum and stepdad. I've been in contact with my lawyer. I did cry the first day when he moved out, but I haven't cried since. I went to the mall, got some good quality makeup, went to the gym, went to the library to read in peace, and I made an appointment with my therapist. But mostly, I've been binge watching shows like Criminal Minds and Law and Order. I don't know why. I should feel sad, but I don't feel sad at all. Can someone explain this to me? I don't get why he didn't go for the ultimatum. I mean, he could have stayed living in your house. You'd probably still be doing most of the household chores. And he'd get to sleep around as much as he wanted to, without even having to hide it anymore. Seems like an amazing deal for a cheater. I genuinely don't get it. My 26 female, fiance 28 male, slept with my sister, 32 female. Heartbroken and devastated, I can't move on. Posted by broken-hearted sister. My fiance, let's call him Jake, and I have been together for 7 years. I don't know a life without him. I met him at university and we stayed together past graduation. We bought a flat together 2 years ago. He proposed last summer and was set to wed in July. We've had very few problems, until now. My sister, let's call her Sarah, is an extremely volatile person. Growing up, I doted on her completely, but she had a lot of personal issues that made our home life turbulent. Her childhood was very different to mine. My parents had very little money and they were on the brink of a divorce, and my dad was physically violent on a number of occasions. Whilst things did improve drastically in the years after I was born, she has an abundance of problems that stem back to this. My parents feel a lot of guilt about Sarah's upbringing and used to let her get away with some shocking behaviour. Sarah had the same boyfriend for as long as I can remember. They dated from when they were 16, and their relationship was toxic. They habitually broke up and got back together. When they were good, they were crazy in love. But more often than not, She would have these insane, sometimes physical arguments with him, then take out her frustrations and despair on myself and my parents. I spent so many nights lying by her side in bed while she cried so hard that she would retch. After their arguments, she'd throw plates and glasses at the wall, hit herself. Sometimes she'd hit me and my parents too. It was like he was a drug to her, and she was emotionally stunted and didn't know how to see anything past their relationship. 2 months ago, her boyfriend called things off for good. I don't know what gave, but after nearly 2 decades together, he'd finally had enough. He booked a one-way ticket to another country, changed his number, deleted all social media profiles, and essentially disappeared from Sarah's life. To this day, she still won't explain what caused this, but it was long overdue. To say that Sarah was devastated is an understatement. She moved out of their shared rented apartment and in with my parents. I'd visit her most days after work, where she'd flip between explosive rage to an almost catatonic silence, staring at the wall with tears streaming down her face. At one point, we were all extremely worried that she might seriously harm herself and organised for her to see a therapist, something that I'd suggested for years. Of course, she backed out days before her appointment and there were no consequences. She is, after all, a grown woman. She just hasn't changed emotionally the entire time I've known her and still acts like a teenager. 2 days ago, I went to visit Sarah, who was in bed in her darkened room. I let myself in and attempted to speak with her, telling her all about my day at work. She exploded, screaming at me, throwing her pillows across the room, crying uncontrollably. She told me life was unfair, that I had everything, while she was left alone to rot. That everything wrong in her life was because she was a bad person. She hurt her boyfriend, drove him away. She's ruined our family. She slept with Jake and didn't feel guilty at the time. I initially thought I'd misheard her, but then she said it again. It was like she'd poured a bucket of ice water over me. I silently left, shaking. When I got home, Jake was there watching TV. It came out of my mouth the second I saw him, and I could see in his eyes. It was true. He broke down and told me it happened 3 years ago. Sarah had had another blazing row with her boyfriend and decided to drive around to Jake's looking for me. I was at our parents' at the time, so Jake attempted to pacify Sarah. He comforted her while she sobbed in his arms, and one thing led to another, and they had sex. I packed an overnight bag while he followed me from room to room, sobbing, telling me it was the worst mistake of his life, that he still has no idea how it happened. They felt unbelievably guilty the second it was over, that it feels like it wasn't even real. I left him in the doorway, begging me not to leave. I've checked into a hotel and have switched off my phone. I don't know what to do, who to tell, where to begin. I feel sick, like this is a bad dream. My heart feels like it's been ripped into a million pieces. For all Sarah's faults, I love her more than anything. They were the 2 people who meant more to me than anyone else in the world. How the F do I move on from this? I feel like I'm in a bubble. I don't know what's going on in the outside world. All I do is cry and sleep in this room. Someone please help me make sense of all this. Too long didn't read. My volatile sister recently went through a breakup after a 16-year-long relationship with the love of her life. She's severely depressed and almost catatonic. I went to visit her one day, only for her to explode and tell me she slept with my fiancé 3 years ago. He admitted it was true, and I haven't spoken to a soul since. I've locked myself into a hotel room with no plans of ever coming out. My heart is shattered into a million pieces, and I don't know what to do. Update. It's only been a day or 2 since I made my post, but it felt like I'd been in that hotel room for weeks, crying in the dark, buried under the covers. At some point this morning, I decided to draw open the curtains and let the sunlight in. I went and sat on the balcony and switched my phone on for the first time. It started ringing within 30 seconds. It was my mother, who burst into tears as soon as I answered. My parents had obviously been desperately worried. This is the longest I've ever gone without any contact. They'd even contemplated calling the police if they hadn't heard from me by this evening. My mum told me that as I was walking out of Sarah's room, down the stairs, and out the front door, Sarah was screaming and wailing that she was sorry. Funnily enough, I didn't hear this. I don't know how. I think I was just in such a state of shock that I couldn't process anything around me. Honestly, I can't even remember the drive home. After I shut the door behind me, my mum, who was the only other person at home, rushed into Sarah's room to find her trashing her room and attempting to slash her wrist with a blunt lino cutter, of all instruments. Sarah used to do a lot of art. Obviously, this barely caused a scratch, but it jumpstarted my mum into action. She drove Sarah to the hospital where she underwent some sort of assessment and was kept overnight. She has, incredibly, agreed to undergo treatment for whatever's wrong with her. My mum was surprised she was so compliant on the drive down, willingly entering the car and saying nothing except to ask where I was. Sarah seems resigned and completely deflated. My mum spoke to me at length, for the first time in my life, about the hardships I'd undergone during Sarah's childhood. I won't go into detail, but I'm still in shock about some of the things I heard. Sarah is not devoid of responsibility. She has long surpassed the age where she can blame her childhood for her behaviour. But my mum admitted, through tears, that not sending her to therapy at an early age was the biggest regret of her life. I asked my mum if she knew why I'd left. She admitted that she'd known since Sarah's ex left 2 months ago. At this point, I had to struggle to not hang up and suddenly felt myself going back into that pit. But she begged me to listen. After her ex left, Sarah told my mum exactly what happened. It wasn't the reason for her ex's departure, although he did know about it. Rather, he'd had enough of being Sarah's carer. Years of begging her to seek help had fallen on deaf ears one too many times. When Sarah told my mum, she told Sarah that I have to know immediately. But Sarah refused to tell me. I still don't know why she changed her mind in that moment. My dad doesn't know and thinks I left because I've also finally had enough of Sarah's behaviour. Now, here's where the home truth came out. I asked my mum if she knew the details. She was reluctant to tell me anything, claiming that it had happened and that was all I needed to know. But I told her I wouldn't step foot in the house until I knew everything. She then proceeded to tell me that a few months before they slept together, Sarah and Jake had kissed at my dad's 60th birthday party. It was a large family gathering with a lot of alcohol involved. I remember Jake getting very drunk with my cousins. Sarah had had a crying tantrum prior to arriving, as her and her ex had had an argument and he'd refused to come. She'd called me sobbing before she'd arrived. At some point during the night, Jake asked her if she was okay and hugged her. And once again, one thing led to another and they'd shared a kiss in the kitchen. Sarah told my mum they were both immediately remorseful and vowed to never speak of it again. But Sarah deliberately sought him out the night they slept together, knowing he was unlikely to turn her down. She openly admitted she did it to get back at her ex, who'd cheated on her during one of their many infamous breaks. I don't think I even entered her thoughts. At this point, I'd heard enough. We'd spoken on the phone for over 4 hours, and I felt mentally drained and physically sick. Any hope I had of salvaging my relationship with Jake has completely gone. I feel like the last 3 years have been tainted by their betrayal, and the many years before that, I can't help but wonder, did he like Sarah this whole time? Part of me doesn't even want to know. It's worth noting, he has made absolutely no attempt to contact me, other than a single text saying, "I'm sorry, take as long as you need," as if it's inevitable that I'll come back to him. Things are still up in the air. I don't feel ready to check out of the hotel, as I don't know where I'm going next. My relationship with my mum has been rocked by these revelations. I don't know what's going to become of Sarah, and I have no idea what I'm going to do about me and Jake's flat, or where I'm going to live. I don't even know if I have a job anymore. I just haven't showed up to work. But I know the truth, and the smallest part of me is grateful for that. I guess there's nothing else to do for now, except for wait and see how things unfold. For anyone who has ever experienced symptoms like Sarah's, or has been around someone who is so visibly troubled, I beg you to seek help before it's too late. Final update. So, after my conversation with my mum, I went back to square one. I switched off my phone again and retreated back into my hotel for a further 5 days. Eventually, I decided enough was enough and I decided to call work. My boss wasn't angry or even surprised. My mum had called him after our conversation and told him there'd been a family emergency and that I'd be unavailable for the foreseeable future. He told me to take until the end of the week, but if I required more time off, I would have to come to a meeting. So my job is safe and I'm back at work trying to get on with things. After this, I went back to my parents. Sarah was also home, but holed up in her bedroom. I went in to see her. She was up painting. As a number of you guessed, it's likely she has BPD, although my parents are waiting on a second opinion. She's going to counselling weekly and seems slightly better. She broke down in tears when she saw me, and we had a long talk where she spoke to me in depth about how truly consumed she was by her and her ex's toxic relationship. She understands it's for the best it's over, but she describes the pain as unrelenting. It hurt when he was with me, and it hurts now he's gone. Wow, I've just got to say, this sister is so self-involved. The second OP comes back, after having a breakdown over her sister sleeping with her fiancé, she bursts into tears and cries to OP, not about how sorry she is, but about her own issues with her ex. Just wow. I know a lot of you will feel disappointment that I didn't cut her or my mum out of my life for good. I still feel resentment in the pit of my stomach whenever I think about it, but truly, I blame Jake more than anyone. Jake was with me long enough to see some of Sarah's behaviour. She's not well, and he still chose to do what he did. It's a slow process, but she's my sister, and I can't cut them out of my life forever. It will never be the same again, but maybe that's a good thing. My dad, who now knows, drove to my apartment and gathered some clothes and an overnight bag. Jake wasn't home, and my parents haven't heard from him since I left. I have no idea where he is, and neither he nor his family have made any attempt to contact me since this came out. His social media profiles have disappeared, and I haven't tried contacting him, his family, or his friends. I began the slow process of telling my friends last week. I didn't explain what happened, I just told them that Jake wasn't the person I thought he was. They all assume he cheated, but there's no reason for them to know who he cheated with. I've switched back and forth between staying with my parents and sleeping at my apartment, sleeping on the couch, as I can't bear to sleep in our old bed. I'm looking at selling the place, however, this means contacting Jake as the apartment is jointly owned. I'll cross that bridge when I feel a bit stronger. I still spend most days with a hole in my heart. It hurts more than anything I've felt in my life, but it's getting better. I know I've got a long way to go, but I'm confident I'll get there. Too long didn't read. Jake has disappeared without a trace. Sarah's in treatment. My heart still hurts, but I'm finally starting to get better. Man, Opie is far more forgiving than me. I know there's mental health issues and childhood trauma, but I just don't think sleeping with your sister's fiancé is a symptom of that. I don't know, am I wrong? Wedding announced 2 weeks before the date. Venue changed 2 days before. Mother of the groom not invited until 1 day prior. Oh, and everyone pays for their own meal. Posted by Shell by Alexandra. Is this even a wedding? My fiancé and I announced our engagement to his family 3 weeks ago. 1 week after that, his brother Adam announced he'll be marrying his fiancée Nancy in 2 weeks. They've been engaged for 3 years, and our engagement announcement apparently spurred them to finally do the deed. We offered to help them make it cute, push the date to allow more planning, etc. We absolutely would have worked hard to help them have a nice wedding, even though they couldn't afford a big event. Instead, they refused and insisted this is how they wanted to do it. Get married outside at a local park with only a few friends and family invited. The kicker? The mother of the groom is not invited. We had just celebrated my fiancé and the groom's joint birthday dinner at her house 1 week prior, where she made him a special birthday dinner with his favourite dessert. That's when we announced our engagement. These people are not estranged. They often come to events hosted at the mother of the groom's house. There's no active feud, no reason for exclusion, other than the groom choosing this event to punish her for his childhood grievances about her not supporting him enough. To our extreme disappointment, the bride is actively supporting his decision. Mother of the bride is of course invited, despite the heaping pile of poop they talk about her every time she comes up. My fiancé was eventually able to talk Adam into inviting his mother the day before the wedding, after she'd known about it for weeks. The wedding is today, and she may or may not show up. 2 days ago, they told us the venue had changed to indoor, in an event centre in a completely different town to the original park. Afterwards, we'll go to the most expensive restaurant in our area, and everyone will be paying for themselves. Half the groom's family won't be attending the dinner because they decided it's too expensive. Wish me luck today, friends! Update after the wedding. Since an update seems warranted, here it is. Thankfully, I doubt it's as dramatic or interesting as some of you may have hoped. The wedding did indeed happen. The ceremony was devoid of personalized vows, music, decorations, and pews. We sat at round plastic tables to spectate in a small, sparse historical building. The couple did a sand ceremony union to commemorate their love. The mother of the groom did indeed show up, with a forced smile on her face when she spoke to us. The event was short and extremely unceremonious. Afterwards, some of us went to dinner at the expensive restaurant, prepared to pay for the bride and groom. We brought flowers and champagne. They are family after all, and my fiancé cares deeply for his brother and wants nothing but the best for him and his new wife. I feel the same, even though the situation with the mother of the groom had been very disappointing. Dinner was undramatic except for some very awkward politically charged conversations between right-wing and left-wing family members. The composure of the mother of the groom was extremely impressive considering the circumstances. Us guests ended up splitting the newlyweds tab and we went our separate ways. Did I mention that the groom was sloppily wasted by the end of the night? Oh, and he also said to us, once she'd left, "I'm glad Mum was here." Ultimately, I've lost some serious faith in the character of my soon-to-be brother-in-law and sister-in-law. But I feel grateful that we narrowly avoided an irreparable family feud, thanks to my fiancé stepping in. I've seen some people say that we should seek greater understanding of why Adam didn't want his mother there. My fiancé did, and there was no specific reason that could be named, only generalizations. Adam has a reputation for being petty, and this is just the latest drama. It's unfortunate that his new wife isn't the level-headed antidote, but what can we really expect? I'm very confused. Surely there's gotta be more to this than the groom just being petty. Okay, so this is messy, but is it cheating with your own cousin level messy? In the next video, OP catches his girlfriend with her own cousin. Click here if you want to see it. Otherwise, thanks for watching.